Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is one most men feel but rarely talk about. What happens when you stop chasing her? Not out of ego, not as a trick, but because you've grown. Because one day you woke up and realized real love doesn't require you to lose yourself. In a culture where attention is currency, many women become used to being pursued, validated, and prioritized, even when they're unsure of what they truly want. And you show up with honesty, consistency, and love, only to be met with delay, doubt, or games. But the moment you pull back, not to punish her, but to protect your peace, something powerful begins. She starts to realize the value of what she had. Not because you said something, but because you said nothing. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." When you stop chasing, you're no longer handing her all your power. You're reclaiming your center. At first, she might think you've moved on. Then she starts to notice that silence feels heavier than words, that your absence brings more clarity than your presence ever did while chasing. And that's when she begins to realize you weren't just another guy chasing her. You were a man who saw her. You were presence, safety, and truth. And now, that truth isn't available on demand. In this video, we're uncovering 5 emotional realizations a woman goes through when you stop chasing her. The realizations she won't admit out loud, but will feel in the silence you leave behind. If you've ever felt drained, overlooked, or emotionally exhausted from giving too much, this one's for you. Let's dive deep. Let's start. Number 1. She realizes attention wasn't love, but presence was. At first, she might confuse your attention with love. The constant texts, the effort, the availability, it becomes her emotional oxygen. She breathes it in, maybe even takes it for granted. But the day you stop chasing, a different kind of silence arrives. A silence not filled with anger or games, but one filled with self-respect. And in that stillness, something shifts inside her. Suddenly, she begins to feel the difference between noise and presence. It's not the good morning messages or the likes on her Instagram stories that she truly misses. It's the energy behind them, the quiet certainty that someone was there, really there, rooted, real, not just performing. When that disappears, when you remove your emotional investment, she sees the difference between being desired and being deeply valued. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." And ironically, the woman who once had your full attention now begins to feel emotionally starved, not because you're punishing her, but because you've stopped feeding her ego and started protecting your soul. In the early stages, your attention may have felt like a game to her, something she could control. But your absence, that can't be played with, because now you're no longer giving to get. You're silent, and in that silence, she starts to realize how loud your love actually was. Your withdrawal teaches her the first cruel truth. Real love isn't about how loud you chase. It's about how deeply you're missed when you stop. And that realization, it lingers, even if she doesn't say it, even if she tries to act unbothered, even if she posts like she's fine. Because deep down, for the first time, she's not just thinking about you, she's feeling what it means to lose you. Number 2, she begins to question the power she thought she had. When you were constantly chasing her, calling, texting, showing up with energy and presence, she felt a certain control. Not always malicious, not always intentional, but it was there. Society often teaches women, if he wants you, make him work for it. And so she tested. She waited, she withheld, not realizing she was gambling with something real. But when you stop chasing, not with anger, but with quiet acceptance, something unexpected happens. She begins to question the power she thought she had. Suddenly, the dynamic shifts. You're not reacting. You're not explaining. You're just calm. And in that calm, she feels something she didn't expect. A void. Not the kind filled with games or temporary silence, but a spiritual absence, the kind that unsettles her ego. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you pull back your energy, you embody this Stoic strength. You're no longer trying to win her approval. You're standing in your own value. And that makes her curious, even uneasy. She starts to replay old conversations, rethinks her actions, wonders why you're not reaching out. What happened? Did you stop caring? Did you find peace without her? That's when the illusion begins to break. Because the truth is, the power she held was never over you. It was over the version of you who didn't know when to walk away. But now, you've evolved. You're not punishing her. You're protecting your peace. You've chosen clarity over confusion, dignity over desperation, and she feels that. That's when she realizes. The strongest men aren't the ones who chase. They're the ones who can walk away without losing themselves. In that space, her ego begins to falter, and her heart, it starts to whisper what pride kept silent for far too long. Number 3, she realizes your absence feels more honest than her presence. When you were there, always calling, texting, checking in, she knew what to expect. Your love was consistent, your attention was predictable, but something strange happens when you remove your presence. She starts to realize that your absence speaks with more truth than her presence ever did. Most people don't understand the weight of real presence until it's gone. Your silence is not noise, it's a mirror. It reflects back everything she was avoiding, her own emotional blocks, her pride, her need to be in control. When you stop chasing, she loses the comfort of knowing someone is always one call or text away, waiting in the background to be chosen. It's in that quiet that she finally hears the things she muted when you were around. Her own guilt, her avoidance, her fear of vulnerability masked as strength. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." She begins to realize how much emotional time she wasted, not because she didn't care, but because she thought she had time. She thought your love was permanent. She thought your loyalty would stay, no matter how little she nurtured it. But when you stopped chasing, not with bitterness, but with grace, she was forced to see love without her ego's lens. And what she sees isn't just your absence. She sees your strength, your peace, the way you didn't fall apart, the way you didn't beg, the way you didn't make noise to prove a point. That's when her illusion starts to crack. She expected to feel powerful when you left. But instead, she feels a strange kind of quiet ache, a longing that has no words. Because it's not about missing attention, it's about missing truth. She begins to understand that the man she pushed away wasn't weak. He was rare. Rare in his emotional presence, rare in his consistency, rare in his ability to care even when he wasn't being validated. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And your soul, no longer colored by the need to be accepted, is now painted with calm, with clarity, with the strength of knowing that sometimes stepping back is the highest form of self-respect. She realizes something humbling. Your distance wasn't rejection, it was reflection. And now, for the first time, she's sitting in that reflection, quietly wishing she had seen it all before you walked away. Number 4, she realizes power without connection feels empty. In the beginning, she may have felt empowered by your pursuit. It made her feel desired, in control, even admired. She could respond on her terms, lean in or pull away as she pleased, knowing you would still be there. That kind of power, especially in a world driven by likes, validation, and emotional games, can feel intoxicating. But power without connection is like a castle without people. Impressive from the outside, but cold and hollow within. When you stop chasing, that illusion starts to collapse. Suddenly, the attention is gone. The daily check-ins are no longer there. Her phone is quieter. Her ego, which once feasted on your consistency, begins to starve. That silence forces her to confront a deeper truth. She was mistaking control for connection. At first, she may try to convince herself she's unbothered. He's probably moved on. He couldn't handle me. But those are just the final defenses of an ego trying not to feel the crack. The longer you remain still, the louder her thoughts become. Not just about you, but about herself. She begins to realize she used power as a shield, not as a bridge. That withholding affection or always staying one step ahead emotionally didn't make her stronger. It kept her alone. As philosopher Alan Watts once said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth." She was so busy trying to maintain control of how she was perceived, she forgot how to feel. Your absence doesn't just hurt because it's lonely. It hurts because it exposes how superficial her emotional victories were. Now, without you reaching out, without you reminding her of your worth, she begins to see it more clearly. You didn't need her attention to feel whole. You offered yours freely, as a gift, not a trade. And when that gift stopped coming, she realized it was never about the chase. It was about the quality of presence you brought with you. In a society where women are often told to never settle, to keep their standards high, she begins to understand something sobering. High standards mean little if they're used to reject love rather than recognize it, and the man she once thought was ordinary, she now sees as extraordinary. Not because he begged, but because he knew when to stop. You see, when you stop chasing, you allow her to feel the true cost of emotional games, not through punishment, but through absence, through peace, through dignity. And that's when she realizes power without connection isn't empowering at all. It's isolating, it's cold, it's a quiet regret that lingers longer than she ever expected. Number 5. She realizes the man who walks away has the strongest presence. There's a moment that hits harder than any argument, any blocked number, or any final goodbye. It's when she feels the weight of a man's absence, who once showed up with heart, intention, and consistency, and then chose peace over pursuit. When you stop chasing her, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, she begins to feel something different, not relief, not empowerment, but a shift, a silence that doesn't scream for attention but echoes with meaning. At first she may pretend not to notice. She scrolls through social media, distracts herself with conversations and confidence quotes, but slowly, steadily, she starts to feel the truth. The man who used to show up is no longer waiting in her shadow. And that's when the realization begins. She remembers your patience, how you tried to understand her moods when even she couldn't. She recalls your consistency, how you never made her beg for attention. She replays the late-night talks, the tiny gestures, the moments where you gave without needing a reason. You didn't just want her, you saw her. And now that you've stopped chasing, she sees herself more clearly than ever. Modern culture often mistakes detachment for strength, especially in dating. She was taught to never show too much, to make him prove himself, to always be one step ahead. But when that game ends, when the player leaves the board, the emptiness of it all becomes unavoidable. The man who once pursued her no longer needs to, not because he lost interest, but because he found himself. That's what shakes her ego most. You didn't walk away with drama. You didn't slam the door. You didn't beg her to see your worth. You simply stopped giving energy to a place that stopped honoring your presence. And your quiet exit did what 1,000 words never could. It reflected her choices right back at her. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In this case, the best response is to rise, not to retaliate. She realizes that real men don't chase forever. They pursue with purpose, yes, but only when they feel received. The moment it becomes a performance, they exit. And that exit, carried out with grace, teaches more than any confrontation. Your peace becomes your power. Your stillness becomes your strength. You are no longer just the guy who cared too much. You are the man who knew when to stop caring for someone who didn't care enough. And in that realization, she sees what she missed. Not someone who begged for her affection, but someone who was already complete, who offered love not from emptiness but from wholeness. Conclusion: when you stop chasing, something powerful happens, not just in her, but in you. You begin to see your worth not as something that needs to be proven, but protected. You stop handing your energy to someone who doesn't honor it, and instead you reclaim it for yourself. And that space you create, it speaks louder than words. It tells her and the world that your love is valuable, your time is sacred, and your presence is not a privilege to be ignored. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to walk away. Not to hurt them, but to heal yourself. Not to punish them, but to protect your peace. And in that silence, she finally hears everything your words couldn't express. She realizes who you were when she wasn't ready to receive it. She sees the version of you that she took for granted. And most of all, she begins to understand the difference between being pursued out of need and being chosen out of strength. So if this message resonated with you even a little, don't just let it sit. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's your friend who's going through it. Maybe it's you in the mirror. And if you found even one truth here that made you feel seen, supported, or stronger, just hit that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. And don't forget to subscribe for more raw, real, and emotionally intelligent takes on modern love, mindset, and masculinity. You're not alone in this journey, and the right ones, they'll never need to be chased. They'll meet you where you are, whole,